The scene is Emilia-Romagna, in the north of Italy, on the border between the provinces of Reggio Emilia and Parma. This is where the Apennines meet the plain of the River Po, close to the foothills along the valley of the River Enza, in the territory of the municipality of Canossa. The Campotrera Cliff Nature Reserve is located here. Established in 1999 with the aim of protecting an outcrop of volcanic rocks of particular interest to conservationists and nature lovers alike, the nature reserve is located in the lands of Matilde, which are home to the Rock of Canossa and the Rock of Rossena, with the Tower of Rossanella. One of the places of greatest international renown and landscape beauty in the province of Reggio Emilia. In a territory steeped in history, dotted with ancient villages and medieval fortresses, the cliff hides behind its own immovable nature. It is something special and much more dynamic than one might imagine.
It's autumn, and the cliff of basalt rock with its somber tones almost seems to blend in with the colors of the season. Nature is getting ready for winter, but at sunset, the cliff still releases the heat of the sun accumulated during the day. The cliff of Campotrera has a fascinating history, linked to the geological events of about 150 million years ago, which led to the formation of the continents. In that era, the land that had risen from the seas was fused into a single supercontinent called Pangaea. This mass gradually started to break up into huge rafts, which, over tens of millions of years, formed the current geography of the Earth. The word eruption summons up images of fountains of incandescent lava and columns of ash and vapors which rise skywards. However, in this case, we have to turn our imagination towards an underwater eruption. Incandescent lava released into the sea undergoes very rapid cooling. In this way, a kind of large blob of lava is formed, the surface of which hardens instantly, forming a thick crust. Geologists call this a lava cushion. The continuous outpouring of lava causes the crust of the first cushion to break, forming a second cushion. Little by little, the cushions accumulate and gradually form the structure of a volcano. In this way, around 100 million years ago, the cliff of Campotrera was born. It is a remnant of a much larger blanket of lava, which, over tens of millions of years, has been progressively broken down by geological forces. In fact, after the formation of the Apennines, the volcanic masses that had erupted in prehistoric times, known as ophiolites, were intensely fractured and subjected to considerable displacements in a southwesterly-northeasterly direction. In Italy, there is a coordinating body for protected ophiolitic areas, of which the Campotrera Nature Reserve forms part. Other ophiolites are present, in particular in the Ligurian and Parma Piacenza Apennines. The cliff of Campotrera stands out for its love of travel. In fact, it is one of the fragments that has undergone a major dislocation, reaching as far as the edge of the Po. It now lies more than 100 kilometers from its original area of provenance, the ancient Thessis Ocean Ridge between Paleo-Africa and Paleo-Europe.
Water, ice, wind and sun have performed their tireless work over millions of years. The clay soils have undergone a progressive and unstoppable erosion, as the spectacular karst landscapes of Canossa show. Meanwhile, the volcanic rocks, which are much harder, have gradually emerged to the surface. For this reason, the ophiolites of the cliff of Campotrera, especially on its southeastern slopes, are characterized by steep and dramatic vertical walls. The cliff has not completed its travels alone. The same phenomenon, albeit less spectacular, is also evident in the other ophiolites that surround it. The cliffs of the Castello di Rossena, the cliff of Rossanella, and other minor outcroppings. These travelling companions have made us a gift of a dramatic landscape that contains some true pearls, even if that is not their real name. Indeed, fractures encrusted with spectacular minerals have taken shape within the magmatic masses with the formation of druse. The cliff is internationally renowned for the crystallizations of datolite and prehnite. And is the only location where a pink-coloured variety of datolite has been found. Samples of the mineral are preserved in the nearby Tower of Rossanella.
Several million years have passed since the cliff has been definitely located here. Now the days are starting to get longer, heralding the arrival of spring, and around the cliff, nature is preparing for its renaissance. The extremely arid soil strongly influences the vegetation, creating the necessary conditions for the presence of rare species used to surviving in extreme environments. The cliff of Campotrera is a genuine rock garden for herbaceous species of scientific interest. One natural curiosity is the compact prickly pear, commonly known as the dwarf Indian fig. This plant has adapted by evolving small dimensions and is widespread on the more sunlit slopes of the cliff, where it normally bears fruit. In such places, a characteristic herbaceous layer exists, dominated by succulent plants with a prevalence of species belonging to the genus Sedum. These plants are specialized in coping with periods of drought. Their leaves have evolved to serve as small water storage tanks. In spring, it is possible to witness spectacular blossomings that bring out the true beauty of the natural landscape, presenting a sharp contrast to the somber tones of the cliff. Particularly striking, also in terms of their extent, are the flowering of Helianthinum, Spanish convolvulus, and melic grass. The undergrowth conceals the dogtooth violet and various species of orchids. And, close to the clay slopes, in contact with volcanic outcrops, there are numerous examples of the rare Camphorosma.
With the arrival of summer, the bright colours of flowers give way to the intense greenery of the woodland and the burnt yellows of the expansive grasslands. The woodland consists primarily of oak trees, associated in the most arid areas with ash and juniper. This is the ideal habitat for many of the animal species typical of the Apennine environment: wild boar, roe deer, fallow deer, beech martens, foxes, weasels and dormice. However, the peculiarity of the nature reserve is the presence of numerous birds of prey, such as the buzzard and the rare peregrine falcon. The southern cliff face is the nesting area for these raptors, which specialize in high-speed hunting and dive directly onto their prey in flight. Life around the cliff continued peacefully in this way at least until the Paleolithic era, when a new protagonist appeared on the scene: man. The archaeological finds in the area allow us to date the first human settlements to the Bronze Age. Roman remains are also abundant. Over the long term, man has not brought about any radical change. The first use of volcanic rock, even though very limited, seems to have occurred during the construction of the fortress of Ravenna, before the year 1000. To tell the truth, the blocks of volcanic rock set within the outer walls of the castle are not numerous. The castle was actually constructed almost exclusively from sedimentary rocks. The more rounded blocks were collected in the gravel bed of the river Enza, while the worked sandstone originated from the surrounding area. The fortress of Ravenna formed part of the system of defensive fortifications of the lands of Matilde. Today, a hiking trail allows visitors to follow the medieval route, which stretched from the river Enza to the heart of the Canossa dominions and continued as far as the Tuscan. The trail, divided into 4 stages, passes by the castles of Ravenna, Canossa, Sarzano and Carpenetti, rising as high as the Pasto della Forbici.
In the 20th century, advances in technological knowledge meant the cliff could now be considered as a natural resource in the territory. Quarries were therefore dug under the lava face to exploit the abundance and purity of the limestone rock in the area so as to supply fuel for lime kilns. The first official reports of limestone extraction activities date from 1922. The lava rock, which is much harder and difficult to work, was instead extracted to be broken into small fragments to be used for railway track beds. The quarry was served by various installations, including a cableway around 1 kilometre in length that transported the already fragmented rock down to the valley to the loading hoppers located along the road on the valley floor, a few hundred metres from the village Ciano d'Enza. It was a system in continuous motion, with 1 carrying cable and 1 towing cable, simple but effective. The extraction techniques were also based on the use of controlled explosions. The workers employed at the quarry until its business was wound up in 1961 numbered around 20, quite a number for the local economy. Now, nature is taking over again. But it is still possible to see the remains of the structures used for the quarrying work, such as the old stone house once occupied by the caretakers. Today, airplanes fly over the area. Man now has a new viewpoint of nature. He has travelled to the moon. And from there, the Earth could be seen in all its fragility and was recognized for what it is, the only home we have. A new awareness has developed, and the need to find a new balance in our development has become the key issue of this millennium. The cliff has also registered this passing of an era, and today man has designated it a protected area and allocated new responsibilities. To facilitate the understanding of its rare mineral resources, a specific geology trail has been created that represents one of the main educational tools in the protected area. Today, the nature reserve is a destination for visits by local students. A volunteer ranger guides children along the trail, teaching them how to read and decipher the signs of nature. It is a truly multidisciplinary educational unit where geology, biology and history are at last studied directly in the field.
One year has passed. An insignificant time period for the cliff, but not for the life going on around it. In contrast to its neighbours, the cliff doesn't need to make preparations for winter. Its lifetime is marked by events taking place on a different scale. A time frame consisting of millions of years. The processes that led to its formation and its breakdown are still underway, directly linked to the forces at work beneath our planet. We cannot possibly know if the cliff's journey will end here. What we do know is that the cliff records everything that happens and carries with it the marks left behind by every new event. It will just be another episode in the million-year history to which the cliff of Campotrera bears witness.